Okay, hello, welcome back. This is another part, I think the fourth screencast on the idea of lesson planning. And an important point that I think I've been making, but I really want to just make sure that you understand it, is that there are no instructional activities that you can employ that will automatically cause students to learn. I have run into a number of teachers who, student teachers who, think that if they do, create this particular lesson and they run through it, that the idea is that students will learn from it. And what we're going to be learning through this course, and especially when we start delving into learning theory and understanding how people actually learn, you're going to see that that is absolutely not the case, that there is more of an interaction between you, a teacher, and the student, and that there's this sort of dialogue that goes on, whereas the student tells you, shares with you how well they're understanding, and your ability to listen and to say, okay, I think they're not quite getting it. Let me give them more practice. Let me give them this activity that helps them refine or improve upon their activity. And then the student telling you more, and then you responding to that again. So instructional activities must be carefully chosen to facilitate students' learning and thinking needs. And you need to really be paying attention to what those thinking skills, those learning needs are. So assessment becomes a critical part of your planning. Um, but we're not going to deal so much with that, um, maybe on the periphery. But I want to try to bring that, make that point very, make that an important point for you to really think about. All right, so let's move on. Backwards planning, to sum up. You need to figure out how you will measure what students can do. What is it that you want them to do? What is the end result? Once you have that assessment, you analyze the assessment for the thinking skills that you want students to do. Decide what thinking skills students have and don't have. All right, so, and maybe some students have all of them, some students don't have any of them, some have a combination. So this is where your differentiated instruction will come in. Design instructional activities that correspond with the needs of the students. So again, this is where differentiated instruction comes in. So those students that don't have any of it, then you know what you need to do. Those that already have a lot of it, then you want to deepen, strengthen those skills. And those that have a mixture, you're going to take what they can't do and develop it. Check for students' understanding during the lesson. That is a crucial point. And if you think that you can do this on the fly as a novice teacher, really think again. It is really important for you to plan for ways in which students can respond to you. We go back to Saharic studies. Both teachers knew that they needed to ask questions. But the one that really was more sensitive to students' needs is the one that won the day. So that's what you need to be. Plan for really listening to students' needs. Create opportunities for students to engage. You want them not just listening to you, but to be doing something with this information. And be flexible. Be ready to switch gears. Be ready to review. Be ready to try it another way. That's an important part of planning as well. Lesson planning is the thing that you do that finds best ways to get your students engaged and active in learning. That's what lesson planning is for you to sit and think about how can you get your students active, thinking, and learning. How can you get them to do that? So you know that that's what you should be doing for planning. You start backwards, you identify the skills, you design activities, you provide opportunities for practice. But what should a lesson plan look like? Well, there are many different ways in which a lesson plan could look like. And with that in mind, I want you to know that a lesson plan is a tool that records your thought process for how you want to engage your students. It's a tool, and it's a tool that also has a bureaucratic purpose. So sometimes, for us in this program, you have to write a lesson plan so that your professors and your supervisor can know what it is that you intend to do. So it has that element to it. Um, Lesson plans do not facilitate effective planning. The way that they've laid out the formats typically don't facilitate effective planning. If you were just take a template and fill in all the pieces and say, I planned, doesn't really encourage or promote or foster the kind of planning that I'm advocating, okay? So the kind of planning where you're saying, how can I get my students to really think about this more deeply? It doesn't happen with a typical lesson plan format. So what that means is that you're going to have to really go through the process probably one time on your own, just thinking about it without a template, and then take those ideas and put them into a template. I think that would be the best way. But one thing that I want you to also know is that we have attempted to create a template that is, if it's going to try to get you to think through the process and all of those things, this is the way in which it would do. So I'm going to stop. So because I don't want these screencasts to be too large of a file, because it takes forever to upload onto YouTube, I'm going to stop this one, and then I'm going to show you a lesson plan format that I would like you to use for this block. Okay.